I have had a lot of people of recently asking me many, many questions about entities, frequencies, even the demon's word, all the interesting things that are coming up that I love talking about. And obviously, anyone who's been following me for a while now knows I've had a fair bit of experience in that realm. And I thought, you know what? It's about time I do a new video covering all these things. So this is basically a frequently asked questions on entities, demons, things, energies, whatever you want to call them, whatever you're comfortable with. I also want to mention that for some of you who have been following me for a while, you may know that I've already got a couple of videos on this topic. And there's actually two videos. They're quite old now. I mean, in the realm of YouTube. They were actually before, I think both of them are before I even went into the jungle a few years ago. And one of them is what ayahuasca taught me about entities, which is a great one to watch if this is of interest to you, because my own personal stories around entities that I had removed are in that, and I explain that and how that all went and worked out and what I learned from it, which were amazing lessons. I'm very grateful for. And also, there is another video which I'll share again if you're interested in this kind of topic, which was my experience with the alcohol spirit, which was a whole different way that entities communicate, have relationships with us. And my relationship with the alcohol spirit was probably not unique to what many people have, but it's the actual spirit itself that taught me how it works with humanity. And then I was able to be released from it. And the outcome from that has been that I haven't had a drink since that. And it'll actually be 4 years this coming November, and it's 2025 as I make this video. Um, and yeah, as I explained in the video, I was definitely someone who was a functioning alcoholic, as the term is. I did not see myself ever being able to not have alcohol in my life. And obviously going into this path down the plant medicine world, which I actually hadn't really accepted back then, alcohol is a medicine. It's actually used as a medicine in a very different way. So it was very important that my relationship changed, but I didn't know all that then. Anywho, so those two videos, if you are interested, I will put them in the description so that you don't have to go finding them. And of course, like I said, that's just there for your interest if you want to learn more or hear more about my personal stories with entities and beings and spirits. Now, as I said, they were a while ago, and that was before I even went into the jungle, with, all my training and the time that I go in there every year, and all the other things in spirit world that I am now very much a part of and what I've learned. So, um, I think given our times of the state of consciousness, world, the dimensions that we're moving into, whatever version of language you refer to, new earth, new dimensions, new timelines, there's a whole range of different things that people use. All I know is that things are changing. We are, as humans, depending on where you're at with your and where you want to be with your spiritual progression, with your path, with your awakening, things will definitely be different for you and changing for you. I've had a lot of experience with plant medicine, and just purely through my own need for healing. It certainly wasn't an adventure that I chose. Nobody really would if they were serious about it because it's very hard and grueling. Um, and now I'm in a position where it's more of a responsibility to humanity because everything that I have learnt and everything that have experienced in myself through what I've healed from with the help of plant medicines, maestros, curanderos, shamans, all the beautiful teachers that I have had in my experience, even my own ancestors and my own great grandmother, medicine woman, Kelly. I am so grateful to all of them because as much as it has been an incredibly challenging walking through hell in many cases, I have come out the other end being able to help and assist so many people who go through the same similar kind of things with, no idea what's happening or what is being called of them or asked of them. So I am here to help and use my experience to help others in this space. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So let's get on with it. Frequently asked questions about entities. Let's get into it. The first one that often comes up, of course, is, well, what are entities, demons, and how are there different types? So I first of all want to comment on the fact that, especially in social media and other people who are coming up through this, through awakenings, there's such a hesitation to talk about entities, other beings, and people who have, there's many, many people who have had experiences with what they would consider a demonic type of energy. And I'm here to tell you that all of the above is very, very real, the same as I believe in angels and beautiful light beings and beings of other dimensions. I'm going to guess that if you're having a hard time digesting that, then you're probably not going to watch the rest of this, and this isn't possibly for you, or you're not even watching me to begin with. So that's okay. I'll stop trying to convince anyone. So, because this isn't about that. You're already curious. Something has happened. You are already curious about this kind of discussion. So, the reason why there are differences, first of all, obviously, culture, religion, all kinds of systematic reasons why we try to avoid this topic. We are taught to. We are taught to be very fearful of it. We are taught not to engage in anything like that, and that's through a lot of religious upbringing, and I personally know that myself. But that's actually not the way to have discernment over these things, because it doesn't mean that they don't exist if you just don't look. That just means that you're more vulnerable to it, because it's like saying, if I just don't believe that there's a hazard over there, then I don't have to worry about it. Whereas, like, actually, no, you should be very aware of it, because then you can know how to avoid, how to protect yourself, how to look out for it, how to know what it feels like if there's something not right in the room or around a person. These are all skills that we need in today's environment. Okay. So, but there are differences between some of the beings. Now, I'm not talking about dimensional beings. So we have what we're going into now in our space and time, the access of other dimensions, being able to access Earth, which wasn't so much before. This is because the Earth is changing. That's a whole other conversation. So I'm not talking about dimensional beings. I'm not talking about beings from other galaxies or anything like that. So I am talking about the earthly realm beings that have always been on Earth and had access to humanity over thousands and thousands of years since humanity was here. So, and remember that, because that's actually what makes these beings quite intelligent and understanding of humanity. They know our buttons, they know our fear points, they know how to, get us to do certain things and entice us to, stay disconnected. Because ultimately, these beings are, I like to refer to them more as in a parasitic nature, because it's that idea of a parasite. If you think of a physical parasite for our physical human body, it just needs a nice, comfy little home and to be fed all the things that it loves to be fed, and it will stay there for as long as possible. If things look like it's going to turn around and you're going to start to make that home unlivable and you're not going to feed it properly, it will start to get very demanding, and it will get hostile, and it will start to send you signals. I want, there's a certain type of food that I want, and I want it now. I don't want you to clean house. I don't want you to change the nest. I want you to keep feeding me what you're feeding me, and I want you to stay in this space. That is what a physical parasite actually does. That's a scientific proven thing about how parasites work. If anyone has ever had candida overgrowth. They know that they're craving constantly sugars and carbs and things that feed candida, yeast products. And if you start to take them away, the cravings get worse. These are exactly the same things as energetic parasites. Once they found a home, and that home can be just your lowered frequency, whether it's emotional stagnation, whether it's the environment that you're in, whether it's a relationship that you're in, whether it's your own thought patterns, self-destructive thought patterns, whether it's ancestral hand-me-downs that need to be processed, which is very common. These are all things, reasons, karmic stuff, past life, karmic things that need to be released. There are so many things that we come into this lifetime with in our energetic bodies, because we have more than one energetic body. We have layers of energetic bodies, and we have lessons. I like to think of them as lessons, karmic layers in each of those energetic bodies that we come into this lifetime hopefully ready to release. And that's not always easy. That could be, a load of grief. I know mine was a lot of grief from my ancestors that I had to release. And then plus my own grief that was stagnant in an energetic layer, and that was creating a beautiful home for entities to get all snugly in and continue to make that place a home for them. So let me just, because I have to be careful, I tend to digress. So let me get back to what are entities and demons. Okay, so there are different kinds. I can't, I won't, I could probably make a whole video on this question alone, but I'll try to keep it basically brief. And then you can always ask questions and have comments in below, and I can continue to answer. There are different energies and entities just based on frequency. So you have to always remember like attracts like in no matter what range of frequency, up, high, down, low, in between. Like attracts like. Remember that. Some of the denser style of energies and frequencies don't have so much as a character consciousness. They still have a consciousness, and all they're really looking for is like frequencies, similar frequencies to kind of cling on to and gravitate towards and stay. Think of it like a blob, right? I mean, we've all seen movies where there's that moving black blob. I don't even know what it would be, but something, and it just kind of finds similarities and then grows and grows and grows and stays hungry. That can happen in a whole range of circumstances with humanity. If you think of humanity, we're in very dark times and have been over many thousands of years. But the idea of huge, mass grief, mass fear, mass depression, mass shame, all of these things will hold a frequency and be stagnant and continue to look for more of itself in humanity. So that's one version of an entity as such. And then you can have other kind of entities that are, well, a different style of entity, I'm going to say, that has more of its own character personality. And these types are what can be considered, and if you've ever heard the term of like a soul contract kind of entity, and you could call this a kind of demon, I guess. Like the word is just an ancient word, and it has various connotations. And it's like, some people don't like using the word angels, even though angels exist, they just light beings and they come in many forms. And they come in the form that is most representative to you and what you believe in. And it's kind of the same with demons. We live in a polar opposite, contrasting world. So where you can't believe in light beings and good without believing in the complete opposite of that, because that is our That is our experience. We live in polar opposite experience, polarity. So that has to exist. You can't have one without the other, which I believe is helpful because then knowing what the darkness is in the world, especially at the moment, also means that we can easily believe that there is also the light expansion across consciousness that we can always tap into because it has to exist. That polarity has to exist. Um, so when you have something with more of a character, and by character, I mean a personality. So there's more of its interest is to stay with you or as a soul contract to teach you something. It's brought on by something that you've done, whether it's in this lifetime, past lifetimes, whatever. And in this reference, this is when it would be a good idea to watch my other video about what ayahuasca taught me about my self-worth, because this is exactly what I experienced in the entity that was living in my heart chakra at the time. I had called it in from a previous lifetime and through into this lifetime, and its whole purpose was to teach me how to love myself. I mean, that was the contract. And but it was feeding off my self-hatred, right? Why I'm explaining this is because it had more of a character and a personality. So I was actually learning how it was learning me. It knew me. It knew my thoughts. It knew my personality. It knew my experience. It knew every way to push all of my buttons, how to get me to continuously feed it, how to get me to home it and keep it comfortable in its nest. And so it's quite a battle backwards and forwards, to and fro. You're constantly fighting against this thing um, because it knows its sole purpose is to survive. Its sole purpose is to survive. It thinks of nothing else but how to stay where it is. That's its goal. And so it does anything and everything to make sure that it stays within you, no matter what you're doing. And when it starts to see you starting to try and heal, it's like, oh, actually, we better ramp up this, our protection of ourselves because this one's trying to get rid of me. She's trying to heal. She's trying to learn how to love herself. And we don't want any of that happening, if that's kind of making sense. So it's important to really know this. And I know I've got other questions, so I can't spend too long on each question. As I said, each question could be its own video. But the reason why this is so important to know and understand is because when we step into our healing, whether it's from forced, something's happened to us and we really just need to, it's like, okay, I need to start working on myself, or because you intentionally want to, because of whatever, there's going to be parts of you that doesn't want you to do that. And I think people go into these kind of, oh, I'm going to try a plant ceremony, or I'm going to try, a breathing practice, or I'm going to start yoga, or I'm going to start eating differently, or all the things that you do with your first steps, however big or small they are, they're all saying to the energies within you, I don't want you anymore. I'm going to try and change the environment. I'm going to try and do things differently. I want love in my life. I want to start taking care of myself. I want to feel better. I want to get off this medication. I don't want to be depressed anymore. I don't want to feel sad anymore. I want to I want to live my life. I want my soul purpose. And this entity, energy, whatever you want to call it, inside you has suddenly gone on high alert and said, oh, no, 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 no. We don't want you doing that. And this is why very often people find when they get to this great motivation of doing something new and different and good for them, that they also, things get very challenging and hard. And they, if they have one mistake or if they forget to go to one yoga class that they said they were going to do, or they didn't make it and finish the course that they started, they tend to over exaggerate, beating the hell out of themselves up, and because this energy and this thought pattern wants to bring you right back down. So don't bother. You are hopeless. You are never going to finish that. Really? You want to change after all these years? It's not going to happen. That gets very exaggerated when you have energies and entities that do not want you to change at all. And I think the challenge is because people are like, oh, but I'm not into that kind of thing. I don't think I have anything. I don't have anything. No, why would I have? I don't feel like I have an energy or an entity or, what this lady's talking about. I would know. Okay. I can assure you, I know that conversation because I was having it as well. How is it that they are here to teach us? Because I often get asked this whole kind of, because a lot of people go straight into this idea, because we've watched too many movies, right? I mean, who's up for a horror movie? There's so many of us that have to say that we've watched a horror movie or two. I was raised around when The Exorcist came out, and I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, watching it now, not that I watch it now, but it's actually a bit funny because the the cinematography was so terrible and looked so fake. And these days they're awful. But really, all that does is that benefits the energies because it puts so much fear into people, and they make it so over the top circus like that it helps people go, oh, that's not real. I mean, if I had an energy, I would know because my head would spin and I would start, you know, climbing the wall and I'd be able to do backflips and scatter around like a spider, right? It's understandable that that's what most people think that it's either that or it's nothing. It doesn't exist. And so horror movies are actually really helpful to you know, those beings because it helps to keep them unrealistic or not possible. But I'm here to tell you that that's just all a circus act. I have seen many, many things that were not humanly possible happen in ceremonies. And they will definitely take it to a level where the idea is to terrify people. But then if you flip it and think, oh, you're just doing that monster act because you want to instill fear, because that way people shut it down. Think of it this way. I know I've digressed from the question, but I will come back. Think of it this way. If you are a parasite and you're about to lose your home, you want to pull every trick in the book. And that's all about being scary and making crazy noises and doing all weird things because you know you're about to get taken out, right? You're about to get transformed, transmuted, whatever it is that the person does, because that's a whole other thing as well. So you're going to turn it up. You're going to make crazy noises. You're going to be weird. You're going to be wild. And that's because you want to instill fear so that the person experiencing says, oh my goodness, shut this down. Please shut this down. Please stop, which is the perfect scenario for these beings, right? But really, you have to think of it like a whole masquerade. It's just like Halloween. There's really just a little energy being underneath all of that, carrying on like taking a blanket off a baby. It's that kind of thing. And it took me a long time to get to that space where I could see straight through them. But that's the purpose behind the whole big, scary, crazy stuff. Okay. How are they here to teach us? This is probably the easiest way to answer this. Again, this is a little bit in those other videos, but they're here to teach us how we need to treat ourselves better. Think of it this way. So actually, I'll give you an example of what I'm actually going through physically now because I am doing a physical detox. I was told by my spirit guides that I really needed to change my body, my gut health, the frequency of the foods I was eating because of the realm that I'm going into and all the different dimensions that don't take to density and food very well. And my gut health was bad. So I then and then there was the idea that it's there's probably parasites or whatever. And then when I went to a detox specialist, because I knew I had to do it long term, not just a juice diet or whatever, because they're not helpful at all. And I have a lot of wellness background myself, so it's not new to me. I've studied health and wellness. So she said to me, you can't just kill the parasite and remove it, and then that's it, without changing the environment first. And you can imagine I was already thinking, this sounds similar, because she said what happens is the parasite that you take out physically will lay eggs, and then those eggs will not hatch till 60 to 90 days afterwards, when you've already stopped the diet, you've already stopped the detox, you've gone back to your normal food again, and then of course they just have their own little nest again. And plus, your physical body cells aren't healthy because they've been so broken and in disrepair. So the first thing we do is we build and build and build the good cells back again. We do the repair work first while you still have the parasite. We make it so that the nest is nice and clean and all the cells are healthy and working, and they will overpower the parasite in the eggs when it comes time to taking the parasite out. Then the nest is inhospitable, like inhospitable. The nest is not comfy anymore. um, And then the eggs, when they hatch, there won't be anything for them to eat. There will be no food because you've changed your diet, you're eating differently, you've got the healthy cells ready to regenerate and get rid of anything that is toxic, and you'll be free of them. Now, that is a perfect example of what it's like energetically for entities and energies as well. Because what happens is a lot of people, if they have something taken out, it will just come straight back in if you don't change the environment that they are living in. Now, what does that mean? Your energy is your environment. What you're feeding it are your thoughts and your actions and your behaviors that are not high frequency things. As an example, my own self-hatred, and that was as bad as it was awful. I didn't intentionally see that, but that's what it was. Um, so, I had it removed a couple of times, and it would just come straight back because I didn't stop how I was treating myself. I didn't change my behaviors. I would still eat, drink, and do things that showed that I didn't care about myself. And I had to do that over time. So, what is the lesson? So, how do they come in to teach us? They come in to teach us where we are leaking our bad energy, and I say bad energy, I mean, I'm not a lover of the good and bad, because these are behavioral language, and it's not that. It's frequency, it's vibrational, it's thought patterns, it's where they are on the scale of, lower frequencies feed entities, higher frequencies do not. So if you're staying in a higher frequency state, most of the time, we are human, right? But most of the time, then they are not going to get fed enough to have any power over you, right? So this is why they are here to provide us lessons. Where are we being unkind to ourselves? Where are we staying in toxic relationships? Where are we allowing toxic behaviors to happen to us? Where are we listening to toxic things, watching toxic things? All of these environments, all of this programming is what helps feed these energies and entities, right? So, yes, we are human and we need to live in the world that has these things happening. But over time, you can learn to switch off, to change your behaviors. Now, anyone who's watching this who knew me in my previous life, and I mean before this, uh, would not even imagine that I don't do the things that I used to do. And, I don't begrudge any of them. I had lots of fun and did lots of crazy things, But a lot of people would say I'm doing lots of crazy things and having fun now. So both are very different. And I have eliminated many things out of my life for the benefit of my health and my energetic health and my career path now. Um, so it's kind of like I look at energies now, especially if because they still show up, as in saying, thank you for showing me that I am leaking self-judgment. Thank you for showing me that I am leaking criticism, way harsh criticism, or my perfectionism is over the top. Thank you for showing me that. Thank you for showing me that I have forgotten to love myself in this situation. I need to do some more unconditional loving to that person or to that scenario, or I'm a little bit too much in my, doom and gloom. So, yes, they are definitely here to show us where we need to be kinder to ourselves and what lesson we need to learn. Can we catch them off other people? So, yes, absolutely has happened. Thank you. Not my favorite time at all. And that happened while I also had my own still. So it was a big annoying thing, but it was completely my fault. And I left myself open. So this is how we do catch them off other people. So there's yes and if you are in a ceremony with your own attachment that is for your core purpose and your lesson, like my one was, it was completely for me. It's not going anywhere else. It's all about me. It doesn't have any interest in anyone else because we have a relationship and a contract and it's all happening. Um, and it's not going anywhere until I've finished learning and get to release it. If but what happens is because like attracts like, once you have space in your energy, if that's not because you end up with holes in your energy. I had tons of holes. I was like leaking like a sieve. That means that other energies will see that and they will see that you have space. So you need to protect yourself, especially in plant medicine ceremonies or when even if you're by yourself at home and you happen to be taking some kind of psychedelic, these medicines open our auras, they open our energetic field, they open our crown. I mean, most people are walking around with an open crown anyway, like big antennas. But especially in a psychedelic realm, or drumming, or a circle, or a ceremony, or all of these things open us. So, and you're inviting spiritual beings to be there. So you need to also be aware that you want to protect yourself from other things that are just hanging around looking for a good time, right? Because they will feed off your energy and drain you. But what happens in a ceremony, this is what happened with me. So the girl that was sitting next to me at the time in the ceremony, she was going through a really hard time. And I thought I was it was my ego. I thought I was better than what I was, or capable, or knew what I was doing, and I absolutely did not know anything about what I was doing. But because I had been to a couple of Aya ceremonies, I thought I'm going to try and help this person. So I started to try and help this person, and it did help her. But because the energies see your vulnerability and they see your ego and they see your space, they go, oh, look at this one, thinking that she's bigger than she is. And also disrespecting this energy that this young girl next to me had to deal with. Now, I didn't pick up her energy because this was her contracted energy. This thing that was she was fighting with was her thing. But I was just holding it back for her. Um, because this is one of the things when you're in ceremony, it can be challenging when you see someone going through something. And because I had already learnt some shamanic practices, I, of course, in my healer self, wanted to help her because I was not doing too much. But what I didn't know was this was my biggest lesson. I was actually learning. I was just learning the hard way. And so, because I was helping her without protecting myself, it was not my show. There was a shaman taking care of everything. I had no, I had no business sticking my foot in and pretending that I could help when I had not protected myself or I not had anything to do with the ceremony. It was a big no-no. So please, anyone out there thinking they should help the person next to them, this is absolutely dangerous territory. So it wasn't her energy that I took on, but it was just this other random thing that was flying around. And had I not have broken that kind of myself open like that, I would not have attracted that. But because I was being all full of myself and thinking I was better than something, I ended up with that energy. It was a full 6 months before I was able to get that out. And again, it was in my world and what I'm doing now is probably one of my greatest lessons. It was a hideous thing that I had to live with for 6 months. And it was a 3 hour process of me thrashing around getting rid of it. But Mother Ayahuasca was amazing in the sense that she turned it into a huge lesson for me where I was actually able to be in the mindset of this entity to learn how they work. This is one of the reasons why I can see them and I can understand them and I can hear them because um, uh, I had that experience. So, in one way, it's like I was messing around where I shouldn't have. I ended up with this thing, but I also learned a lot from it and it's helped me help others. And it's also helped me learn how to maintain an incredibly safe ceremonial space and not have other beings at all from, jumping from person to person. Since then, I have been to ceremonies and seen horrendous amount of energies jumping around from person to person, which is some of the reason why some people leave feeling worse than when they went there. But that's a whole other story. Is an exorcism real? Do we need a shaman to get rid of these things? So, if you'd have asked me this question a few years ago, it would have been quite a different answer. But over time, I have learnt so much about these beings and learnt more about plant medicine and other ways. So it's not that you always need to have an ayahuasca ceremony. There are other ways. As you know the Catholic Church have been doing exorcisms for a long time. Not very successful, I might add, but that's not the way I would recommend doing it. But so is an exorcism real? Well, yes, they can be very real if you want to call them that. Again, it's one of those names that has very different connotations to many different people because we've probably seen too many movies. The idea of removing an energy or an entity is very different depending on the entity. Okay. So there's versions of things that just stick to you externally, which you can get rid of by having a Epsom salts bath or having some aqua florida and intentionally removing them, or going for a walk in nature and asking the trees to cleanse you, or letting the wind. Like there's so many different easy ways that you can just release yourself from anything that you've caught in your aura, in your energy field. And this is done with intention and accepting that we have power over these things. This is a very important point. We give our power away too much as humans. We think we need, very specially highly trained, and in some cases we do. So this is I'm going to contradict myself here. But in the easy maintenance stages, you have a lot of power over things. Okay, to be able to keep yourself cleansed and free of these things and setting boundaries and saying no to people and not being in the space of people who, are giving off a bad vibe. So we have power over these things, and this is what we need to practice more and more and more, especially in this day and age. However, Uh, if you have, so for example, the things that I have had, I have definitely needed help and I have needed to have them removed. Things that are removed that I haven't learnt my lesson with yet will, of course, come straight back. Because, as I was saying before, the home is still there and I'm still feeding it. So it's just going to come straight back. Um, However, uh, there are certain aspects of, I'm going to say, demons, levels of entities that definitely can be removed and would be required an expert in that field. These are not things to be messed around with. These are quite rare in the sense that you would probably need to be messing around with something bigger than yourself, something that you've gone into possibly unknowingly. And there are very many stories about people who, call on powers that they do not know what they're messing with. I'm not going to go down that path, but what I am going to say is that in the plant medicine world these days, there aren't very many shamans that will pull things out specifically in a ceremony. For some of the reasons that I explained, if you're not ready to change, if you're not ready to make the changes physically in your life, then there's no point in actually wasting the energy to take it out. Here's what I want to say to people who don't understand this world. It is a huge responsibility and role for someone facilitating a shaman, curandero, ayahuasquera, to take on an entity and remove it. There are many, many risks involved with backlash onto that person. They need to be able to hold the energy, to be able to transmute the energy, whether it's binding it with love or doing it in a way that's it's sending it out into the jungle. There are many, many ways, old ways. Um, it is a huge responsibility. It takes a lot of energy, and it's something that cannot be messed around with because these things will know whether you have the confidence in yourself to do it or not. And if you don't, it will come back to bite that person and they can become very sick. So it's not just an automatic, they should just get it out or remove it. It doesn't work that way. Although there are some people doing that. But these days, most shamans just let you kind of purge it out yourself in your own way, in your own time. And if you work with ayahuasca, and I'm going to be doing a whole course on this and other videos on this because she's very determined that I teach this. If you work with ayahuasca in removing these energies, she will go deep, she will get rid of them, she will make them weaker, she will make them smaller, and you and her can work together to get rid of these things. The problem is, and what slows it up is as a human, we spend so much time trying to control the medicine in a ceremony. We spend so much time in our heads. We spend so much time going, oh, I just don't like the purge. I don't want to purge. I don't want to do this. I want it to stop. Can you make it stop? Can you make it stop? Then you're not ready to let go of the energy. So it's the preparation, taking it seriously, because most people these days don't take the preparation seriously. It's doing the diet, doing it seriously, doing the mindset seriously, and saying, I want to change. I want to do things differently. I'm prepared to make things. It's not going to happen overnight, but she will definitely work with you to remove these energies. And if you're willing to just keep going and go deep, go to the scary places that your mind doesn't want you to, because it's actually the entities that don't want you to go deep, because they know she will get rid of it. Trust me, she will. Finally, as a good question to finish up on, how can we protect ourselves and reduce the effects of these parasites? That's probably the best way, the best word to use. Energetic parasites is what they are. All of them, all different types. Even if we're talking, Because I didn't even raise the fact that sometimes there are lost souls still wandering the planet who have passed and not gone on to other places like they were meant to, and they get caught up wandering around trying to attach themselves to people and feed off humans. That's a whole other thing. But they're not usually, they just cling on you and they're a lot easier to get rid of. So finally, how can we protect ourselves? Self-awareness is the best first step and most powerful, effective first step. Self-awareness. Getting out of this, oh, I don't know, I'm not sure I believe in that, or I don't think that's really my thing, or I don't think I have to worry about that, or this doubting the obvious is actually what helps them to stay. Self-awareness of the possibility that maybe there isn't part of me, maybe there is an energy amongst me that lives in my energetic body or my aura that is holding me back. The thing that these parasites can't, that is a huge red flag for them is your self-awareness. As soon as you start questioning and going, maybe I do have something. Maybe I am carrying something that isn't necessarily mine in this lifetime. Or maybe I am carrying something that I need to learn from, that is showing me a part of myself, showing me a part of my shadows. Are they created by humanity? Yes, 100%. Humanity feeds all of these things, just as the light as well, right? I mean, we are all part of being a creator spirit. We're all one. So that's not the argument that I'm having here. Yes, I believe we are all source energy. We are all part of the creator. So we have all created everything. Okay. But that doesn't help us in today's reality of who am I and how can I keep myself safe from these things. So instead of putting it into the pile of demons, Satan, big scary monsters, ghosts, and that Hollywood style of thing, put it into something that we need to be aware of. The spirit world exists. The spirit world is our reality. The human world is is the virtual reality, right? We are a spirit who has evolved many, 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 many times. We have been to Earth many times, some of us from different galaxies, but that's for another video. We are here to remember that the spirit world exists, and we use those who want to help us evolve, but also being aware of those who do not want us to evolve. So we are constantly in this video game, right? What are building up my character and building up my gifts and my skills and knowing who I am and remembering who I am in previous levels. But then there's also the ones who are trying to stop us. They don't want us to evolve. They want to feed off our fear. They want to feed off our depression. They want to feed off our guilt and our shame and our treachery and murderous beings that we are and have been. They want to keep us in that space. But we are here to evolve. So we are here to be self-aware, to remember that they are here to try and stop us in their hidden secret little ways. And when we are aware of that, then we can put into place ways that we keep ourselves clean, we are eating out for higher frequency, we are watching higher frequency, we are listening to higher frequency, we are having higher frequency conversations, we are around people of higher frequency. We are doing things, we are acting in a way of as much love, as much unconditional love as possible, right? We're not beating ourselves up when we don't do that. We are saying, that's okay. I'm here to learn. I'm here to do the best I can. We are here to reach out to other humans who need help, to support other people who are in a darker space. But the more we get to shine in our higher frequency levels, the more it shows other people that it's possible. We are not in it for egoic claim or fame or saying, I'm the bestest guru on the planet, because then we're just in the lower frequencies again. This isn't about the bestest human. It's about being a better human. Humbly, right? So the ways to keep yourself, I don't want to say clean, but the ways to keep yourself vibrating at a higher frequency is by self-awareness, thinking, okay, how am I feeling? How am I checking in today? What do I need to do now? Can I spruce up my environment by buying some fresh flowers? Can I change what I've just eaten to be more higher frequency food, fruits, vegetables, organic, less toxic? Can I change the music that I'm listening to higher frequency, to beautiful light, beautiful angelic music, different hertz, all those things? There's so much available these days. Do I need to not see certain people in my life? Do I need to detox from social media? Do I need less programming from things and stories that aren't helping me? Can I have Epsom salt bath and put an intention into the water that I want to cleanse my aura, cleanse my frequency? All of this is very powerful. Your thoughts are as powerful for you as they are against you. So use that. I want to go and stand out in the wind and ask the wind to cleanse my aura. It's as simple as that. You don't have to do it out loud if you don't want to get locked up, but you can do it in your head. Walks in nature, lots of sunshine, beautiful weather, grounding, barefoot, oceans. There are so many things. And I'm sure if you're watching me and you've made it all this way, then you know there are many things. I am happy to answer any questions that this has sparked for you. Please leave them in the comments section below. Share this if you think it needs to be shared. This kind of information is difficult to get out into the ethos because people don't want to hear about it, but I find it incredibly valuable. It has completely changed my life. I wouldn't be alive today if I hadn't gone down this path. I was destined for an early death, and that's not trying to be dramatic. It is the absolute truth. I know it with all my being that I am only here today because I have stepped into this spiritual path and accepted all of my shadows, all of my darkness was a teacher. And I am so grateful for every single entity that has ever come into my life and into the future. I am more than happy to walk with them, talk with them, be with them, accept them, be in gratitude for them, and also have my own discernment of my own spiritual space of what is my own space, that nothing, my own sovereignty of my spiritual body that I keep very to my own. I will leave you with that. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your presence, comments, questions. Thank you so much. Mwah. Please take care of yourself. You are so worth it. You are so loved. And we need everyone in this lifetime, in this presence of humanity, to appreciate themselves with so much love. Thank you. Mwah. Bye for now.